Alright guys, now we're going to go with smudge technique. Remember, you want to break stuff down into basic shapes. If I'm looking at my hand, I want to break it down to basic shapes. Again, same thing like I showed you the last time. We're just going to break stuff down. And I'm just going off of the shapes that I see and breaking things down to basic shapes. And from there, we can start building. Now if you're smudging, you want to make sure that you're using the smudging technique to the best of the ability. You just start drawing stuff out first, and just how you see them, the best of your ability, and start putting stuff in here. I already messed up because this knuckle is not that close to where my thumbnail is, and I can add a little bit more thumb here. I can bring it down. Just all depends on how I want to work that. I got some wrinkles in my flesh here. And I'm just trying to draw what I see. Once you have the basics out there, then you want to start looking at the shadow. I mainly have a shadow right here. It's kind of dark here. All my light sources coming from above, so this is going to be lighter right here. So I want to show that. Now remember, as I told you, light reflects. There's still light being reflected. So I have a little highlight at the bottom of where my thumb is. So if I'm going to make this pretty solid, I'm just going to start shading in. And this is just kind of like a circle here where the knuckle is. So I want to shade in to kind of form my knuckle. This is more like a tube, a cylinder. So I can shade in with the cylinder. And I want to keep in mind where my reflected light is. So notice I'm not pressing really hard. The harder you press, the darker the shade's going to be. I want to go from a light and build up to a dark. And I know that might sound a little odd to you, but that's how a lot of artists do it. They want to, if they're going from a light, they're going to want to build their darks and make them darker. But if you go too dark, it's hard to go back. So if we go a little at a time, it's easier than running in and then finding yourself in quicksand and you don't know how to get out of it. If you go a little at a time, you have an easier time fixing any problems that you might have. Now that I have recently good shading kind of going there, using little circles with my pencil, I can take my blending stump and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add little pencils, maybe some strokes to help smooth it out like this. And you can see I'm lifting it off the paper to get a taper, so we have kind of nice tones. Okay. You want to start out light and then press down hard to kind of help spread that pencil lead around. As you can see, if I have enough, I can, that are already on my pencil, on my blending stump, I can shade areas that are already shaded. And if I want to come and do some highlights, I can, and take stuff away and put a little highlight in my knuckle here, highlight that, just some reflection of light coming off my thumbnail, and even add some texture and take some stuff away so I can have a nice value of what I'm doing. Notice that it's not just one application that I'm doing multiple applications. And so I can have nice dark darks and nice midtones. So right now I'm trying to separate midtone from dark from the inside of my nail here, so I can have a high contrast. This is darker right here by where the little sunset of my thumbnail is, so I'm going to make that a little darker as well. So the light is coming from here. I'm going to shadow my thumbnail just a little bit more. Bring a little highlight to the other side of my thumb. And just work my materials best that I can. If I go to the side here, I can shade in larger areas and go back in with the blending stump and blend stuff out. Notice that I have a nice hard line on the side of my thumb, which helps push this highlight out and makes my image a little bit more 3D. It gives it more that 2D, 3D kind of look. This is what you're going to want to do for if you're doing a smudging technique and you want to go through the whole hand and see where the shadows are. Shadows are going to be more here where I'm blocking the light, and it's going to, on top of the hand, it's going to be more light. And attention to detail, how the knuckle is, where the shadows are, and this is how you're going to maintain that. Now, if we're moving on to a cross hatching, well, that's different. This cross hatching, you're just building up by using lines. So I can start outlining where my knuckle is here, and I got some chubby fingers, but I got some decent knuckles going on here. There's my scar on my finger when I cut it as a boy drawing a knife the wrong way. And if you notice, I have a calligraphic line going with most of my stuff, most of my lines, so I can try to create depth and form. And then you're just going to start drawing lines. Now, if you notice how I draw lines, I have my lines fill the form on, because it's a curved area, so some of my lines are curved and they're going over each other. So you want to keep in mind that you might not just want to use the straight lines all the time, but how are those lines going to affect what you're drawing? Are they sticking to the curvature of what you're drawing? Remember, you don't have to draw realistically either. You can choose something non-objective. Your choice is up to you. I like drawing this kind of stuff, so I picked drawing this, my hand here. The farther away the lines are, the less shade there is. The closer you have them in, the more shade there is, the more shadow. Remember, you want shadow, midtones, and highlights. See how my lines are going around? Might have a few straight lines in there just to help darken some spaces. The harder you press, the darker your line's going to go. So you can control how intense your line work is by how hard you press. If you're pressing really hard, you can have thicker highlights, thicker shadows, not thicker highlights. Okay, you don't really have to use the eraser too much using cross hatching. It's mainly about building up darks. But you can see that you're starting to get my finger here. I'll probably go back in and use some darks for shadows, thicken up a few lines here and there to help show depth, form, and shadow. So I'm going thick line here, thin line here, and sticking up some lines here and there to show shadow. There should not be any more questions on what you need to do. You have different techniques. I showed you how to use the eraser as a tool. Showed you the smudge technique and the gestural technique, along with the cross hatching. I doubt few of you will use the stipple because it takes forever. All right, get drawing, guys.